I think that I'm not going to be value judgmental about breaking news, because this is our business. This is the phenomena that we are all confronted with. And this is a phenomena which we need to look at and try and understand. I think the one major casualty of breaking news is that verification has been given the go-by. Fact checking. Checking is what you're reporting, is it correct? And it's not just television today. It's the web, most important. Perhaps the web is a medium which is quicker than television in so many ways. So fact checking is, in a sense, a casualty of breaking news. It's important to be first. Yeah, it's important to be first. But in my dictionary, it's more important to be correct. I think that is something which, we grew up with. So in the days when you and I used to matter, the United News of India, which is now reduced to a pale shadow of its former self. So they used to say that UNI was quick with the news and quicker with the denial, because PTI was seen as this very statist news organization, which would not sort of extend itself in any way. So these are all things which, happen, being a casualty as far as breaking news is concerned. And nowhere has that been more evident to me as a journalist as when I saw the counting for the Bihar elections on the 12th of October. NDTV and Times Now, they ran with a wrong story for close to 3 hours. Close to 3 hours they ran with a wrong story. So here it's not even breaking news, it's much worse than that. Okay? But in this case, there's only one source of news, and that is the Election Commission of India. Nobody else is giving out results. And what we saw that day on Times Now, on NDTV, and CNN, IBN had the good grace to correct itself. And that's an example. Yes, in our profession, we make mistakes. We will always make mistakes because ours is often not the finished product, it's going with what you have. So I think that the ability to correct yourself, the ability to say you're wrong and quickly correct, is no point in apologizing 12 hours later. On television, it's a pointless exercise. So if someone has made such a huge error that if, say, a newspaper had been printed, I'm just giving you an example, with that kind of information, that newspaper's image would have been totally mud. Just because you have a screen in which you can remove something, that doesn't mean that it makes it right. That doesn't mean that you can give this kind of information to your viewers. Because essentially, what are you doing? You're giving information, you don't know what is the source. So sourcing of stories, whether it's breaking news or whether it's writing a caption for a picture or whatever it is, you must be able to source properly. You must be able to get names right. That's very important, by the way. Ask the person the name. What is your name? What is your designation? How do you spell it? All these things matter a lot in our profession. So the moment if you spell Parvez Alam, A-L-E-M, I don't think that Parvez Alam is going to like it. Or if you spell my name wrong, I'm not going to like it. So you must have the courage as journalists to go up to someone and say, hey, okay, can you give me your card? Okay, you're not carrying a card. Could you write down your name for me? Could you write down your designation? So it's important. Fact checking is a core principle of journalism. If you can double source in an organization like the BBC, for instance, double sourcing is very important. This is something which can't always be done in newspapers especially, but sourcing. So even if I tell all my colleagues in my office also, don't write informed sources. At least say, an official in the Home Ministry said. A source in the Defense Ministry told this correspondent. At least give the reader that little bit where this information is coming from. This information has not been manufactured by me or my boss or anyone else. So I think one of the casualties that I was talking to you about breaking news is this. I understand the pressures that journalists face, because if you are outside, say, for a couple of hours, you are broadcasting from outside the venue where something important is going on, but you're not inside the meeting, but you're supposed to give the impression that you're reporting from what is happening inside the meeting, So it's a pretty tough job. It's not an easy job. And I'm also going to tell you my favorite television story, Soon after I came back, after a couple of stints in Sri Lanka and Pakistan and in Singapore, so I used to write on foreign affairs, much like Seema. And, there was a day when, there was a time when India and Pakistan had expelled each other's high commissioners. तो उसके बाद क्या हुआ? I'm going to speak in Hindi and I will translate a little later if need be. So, so when the High Commissioner had gone off, so after some gap of several months, a new High Commissioner came. So all our TV channels were at Wagah border and they were broadcasting live. And I was just watching this at home before leaving for office. And this is perhaps my most favorite television story. And there was this young reporter who was going on, because it's tough to go on when you don't know what's happening. And suddenly she says, because after going on for half an hour, अभी अभी आपने देखा कि पाकिस्तान के नए राजदूत एक बीवी और दो कुत्ते समेत वाघा बॉर्डर पार कर चुके हैं. So basically what was the journalist saying? That the new High Commissioner to India from Pakistan has just crossed the Wagah border with 2 dogs and 1 wife. Okay? So that's the kind of news environment that we have today. And I'm afraid it's getting worse. So the point I'm making is that, yes, we can't do without breaking news. There's no doubt that I think our Indian news appetite has now been so whetted by breaking news that channels, international channels, often they look very boring, So, I was involved in the BBC's Hindi project, television project, which was subsequently launched. So, when some of my colleagues in the BBC came to Delhi and we showed them the screens of Indian channels, and when we came out with the pilot, I said, I'm afraid this is not going to work in an Indian market because the Indian market is used to something completely different. I mean, you just see one scroll running at the bottom. This doesn't work in what we do. So, I mean, they made some corrections and so on. But the point I'm making is that we have to live with this phenomena. And how do we live with this phenomena? We live with this phenomena by improving things. We live in an age where news is being miniaturized. I mean, Twitter today is as important a breaking news tool as anything else. And I tell my colleagues in my office, I said, a tweet is as important as writing an intro to your story. Because you may say, this is my personal view, but when you're associated with an organization, obviously the name of the organization is going to rub off, on that. So when you tweet, when you post something on Facebook, especially if you're a journalist, you should be able to have your sense of priorities and your facts very clear. So this choice of news, in this age of miniaturization and commercialization, I think a lot of it is out of control, and the public interest has really receded from the stage, as in many organizations, paid news has gained ground. But I think ethics are very important for journalists. And while I would say that Western news organizations are very strong on codifying their ethics, whether practice of that ethics is as per what should happen, that's quite a separate matter, In our country, we unfortunately have very little codification. Say the Hindu has a reader's editor, for instance. So if you're not satisfied with something, you can at least write to the reader's editor. But unfortunately, many news organizations, they need to have independent readers, editors, ombudsmen, whatever you call them, to look at the content. We have a broadcasting council in television, but I'm not quite sure how many people actually complain and what's the kind of redress and what's the kind of power they have. We have the Press Council of India, but again, newspapers today, they don't even bother to publish what the Press Council says. That is the sad part. 20 years ago, at least, if a newspaper was censured, they would publish it. Today, since the Press Council is such a toothless organization, many newspapers don't really bother with it. So what am I talking about? I'm telling you all this because what do we get at the end? At the end, if we are misinformed, if we are ill-informed, if we are misled, it impacts all of us as a society. And that's something which is beginning to happen. I think the media is also getting more and more urban focused. Stories from areas which don't generate much advertising are getting short shrift, and unless it's a very sensational story. And this is a phenomena which is becoming even greater in our media. We don't give in our newspapers attention to places or areas, which don't bring in advertisement. So what happens is that if you're living in Bombay, you're only getting to know about Bombay. You don't know what's happening in Vidarbha. You don't know what's happening in Marathwada. You don't know what's happening in Jharkhand, or you don't know what's happening in Manipur. So these are all issues for us. I think that one of the things which is very important in this country is diversity. The Soviet Union broke up before many of you were born. It was a country of great diversity and even had the right to secede enshrined in its constitution. Similarly, India is a country of great diversity, which must be reflected on our websites, in print, and in television. The greatest safeguard for India's diversity is information and knowledge about what's going on in different parts of the country. Also, we as a nation need to be well informed about developments in different parts of the world, given the linked nature of the global economy. I think the world is changing very fast. I think that global developments is something which Indians need to be very conscious about. We are very proud of our diaspora and its many achievements. And one of the reasons why our diaspora has done as well as it has is because we can work harder than other people when we want to. And when we go abroad, when we go abroad, we want to be taken seriously. We want to be recognized for all our worth. It's no longer enough to know about what's going on in your country. It's important, yes, and we have a big country. But we need to know much more about what's happening in the world. And unfortunately, we don't do a great job with our neighbors even. Pakistan, yes, because there's one crisis or the other. But how well informed we are about other countries, say like Sri Lanka or Bangladesh or Bhutan. By the way, there's a new crown prince has been born in Bhutan yesterday. So, these are all tidbits of information which don't really matter. But when you become journalists, when you're writing stories, so to connect the dots, to give a perspective, all these things are very important. So, being informed about diversity, what I spoke to you about earlier, I think that's quite critical. And I think that there's a need to look at journalism as a profession, which what I referred to you earlier. And our job is to inform and hopefully educate people. Balance sheets alone cannot dictate the news agenda in this country. And I think the good news is from social media. The good news is that social media is putting pressure on mainstream media, on legacy organizations. I think a good example is, again, a story which was used inside, the beating of these young protesters outside the RSS office. Yes. One newspaper reported it and that was reported inside. But social media made it a very big story. And lo and behold, the next day, the newspapers had to devote a lot of space to that. So I think you all are also living in an era of unprecedented opportunity. Social media is something which really does put pressure on journalists. While we are engaged in the task of multimedia journalism, multitasking, these are things which put enormous pressure on people. And I'm not quite sure, in a previous organization that I worked in, the mantra there was, do more with less. I'm not quite sure whether you can do that. And journalists do have particular skills. Some, they're better at writing. Somebody may be better at taking pictures. But I think you are all are becoming journalists at an era when you have to do everything. I think there's very little choice. I think technology has made some of it easier. So thank you very much again, Parvez and others for inviting me. Thank you.